In a quiet village, nestled among golden wheat fields, lived a humble baker named Maro. For years, his bakery was the heart of the town. Every morning, the smell of fresh bread would drift through the streets, a warm and comforting wake-up call for everyone. Children would scamper to his shop for soft, sweet buns. Elders would pair his warm loaves with their afternoon tea, and travelers often said his bread tasted just like home. But good times, like seasons, don't always last. One harsh winter, the river froze early. The crops failed, and a deep hardship settled over the village. People had very little money, and fewer of them came to Maro's bakery. With each passing day, his savings dwindled, and his shelves grew emptier. Maro tried to stay hopeful. He kneaded his dough every morning, said a quiet prayer every evening, and waited. But the customers just stopped coming. Soon, all Maro had left was one small bag of flour, barely enough to make a single loaf of bread. He sat alone in his silent bakery, staring at that last bit of flour in his hands. His heart felt as heavy as the stone mill standing outside. "Maybe this is it," he whispered to himself. "Maybe the bakery has no future left." Exhausted and defeated, he almost tipped the flour into the trash. But then a memory stopped him. He remembered his father's words from long ago: "When everything seems gone, make just one more loaf." Hope often rises in the last batch. So Maro wiped his tears, lit the oven, and began to prepare his final loaf. He kneaded the dough slowly, as if each push and fold carried a silent prayer. He mixed in the last of his butter, added a tiny pinch of salt, and shaped the loaf with care. This one felt different. It wasn't for selling, it was for saying goodbye. As he slid it into the hot oven, he closed his eyes. "If this is my last loaf," he thought, "let it be my best." Minutes later, the familiar scent of warm bread filled the bakery, the same aroma that once brought so much joy to the village. When the loaf came out, it was perfect. Its crust shone like gold, and steam curled gently into the cold air. Maro placed it by the window to cool, planning to eat it alone before closing his shop for the very last time. But fate had another plan. Just then, a knock came at the door. A tired traveler, shivering from the cold, stood on his doorstep. "Sir," he asked softly, "do you have any bread?" "I haven't eaten in 2 days." Maro hesitated. This loaf was all he had, his last bit of food, his last shred of hope. But he looked into the traveler's eyes and saw a desperation he understood all too well. Without saying a word, Maro handed him the warm loaf. The traveler's face lit up, and tears welled in his eyes. "You saved my life," he whispered. "I have nothing to repay you." "Except this." He reached into his coat and pulled out a sealed envelope stamped with a royal crest. "My brother is the king's steward," the traveler explained. "He's always searching for good bakers to supply the royal kitchens. If your bread is as good as your heart, you should apply." Maro was speechless. He hadn't expected anything in return. He hadn't even dared to hope. But sometimes life gives back what you give away. A week later, with borrowed courage, Maro traveled to the city. During the royal test, he baked using the exact same method he used for his very last loaf, with patience, with warmth, and with all his heart. The moment the royal steward tasted the bread, he looked up in surprise. This tastes like comfort," he said. "It tastes like home." Maro was offered the position on the spot, the official baker of the royal kitchens. His bakery was saved, his life was transformed. And back in the village, the news was met with celebration and joy. But Maro never forgot the lesson he learned. Sometimes the greatest rewards come not from what we keep for ourselves, but from what we give away, even when we feel we have nothing left to give. Thank you for watching.